Hello, my name is Christopher Henry, a bachelor's in psychology. I am working on a case study, and in this case study, as a community outreach coordinator at a local law enforcement agency, there was a recognition that the importance of bringing a diversity between the justice system and the diverse population that's within the community. So, this outreach initiative aims to educate the immigrants, resident aliens, and documented immigrants about the juvenile justice system and its components, so especially the role of the allied professionals, people like your psychologists and therapists. Understanding the system is crucial for building trust and specifically cooperation between law enforcement and the community. So the first point is there's a relationship of the juvenile justice system to law enforcement, and that is that the juvenile justice system is intertwined and interconnected to the law enforcement branch of the criminal justice system. Law enforcement officers are often going to be the first one that come in contact with the juveniles who may be engaging in delinquent behavior. As an example, a young person caught shoplifting may be taken into custody by a police officer. The officer's response is where they have the opportunity to influence the juvenile's trajectory when it comes to their perception of the justice system. So, an example of how you would apply discretion in that would be, instead of arresting a minor for shoplifting, a police officer might utilize a diversion program that connects juvenile with community service opportunities. This is not only preventing a criminal record, but it also helps the youth learn from the mistake and really highlight the rehabilitative approach, which is, I think, the more important part of the example, not just that they're looking for discretion, but rather the rehabilitative approach. The second point is that there's a relationship of the juvenile justice system to the courts, and that is inherently close because the courts are particularly the ones that use those diversion programs and alternatives to arrest. Again, keeping in mind that this is a rehabilitative approach rather than a punitive one. So these programs are really aimed at redirecting the youth away from any kind of formal court proceedings and more into a constructive intervention that produces results. More specifically, the presence of guardians ad litem, which are individuals that are appointed to represent the best interest of the child. Uh, this further ensures that the juveniles are treated fairly and their voice is heard in court. Again, an example of this and how this plays out in the juvenile is that in cases where a juvenile is facing minor charges, a diversion program may offer counseling and an educational workshop instead of a court sanction or jail time. Guardian ad litem can advocate for the juvenile's educational needs during this process, pointing out things that are necessary to support the prevention of future offenses, and that's a key that is very important to that role. So, moving to the third point, there is a relationship of the juvenile justice system to corrections, and that branch specifically is a system that emphasizes the importance of separating the juveniles from the adult offenders. This is important for multiple reasons. The safety is probably one of the ones that would be brought up the most. And specifically, it really comes down to the fact that in some cases, adult applications of the justice system are a little bit more punitive, whereas the rehabilitative nature of the juvenile system allows for more allied professionals such as mental health counselors and psychologists to play a vital role in addressing those psychological needs of the juveniles in the correctional facilities to potentially address key behaviors and start to bring awareness and potentially cognitive dissonance to the youngster when they still have the opportunity for change. So, as an example, a juvenile who has committed a crime may be placed in a rehabilitation center where they receive therapy from mental health counselors. This therapeutic intervention would help to address underlying issues and start to bring out any trauma or behavioral problems, which is really the underlying factor and can really be a root cause for the likelihood of reoffending. So it's important to address those in a significantly valuable and empathetic way. So the role in of social media and communication skills is the fourth point, and really, this is one that with the advent of technology, there is a need for the use of communication within social media. So, like law enforcement agencies and outreach coordinators can use platforms like Facebook and Twitter and even Instagram to provide information about the juvenile justice system and community programs or even resources for youth. So, who would use that? I think that this is a question that fundamentally both law enforcement agencies and community members would utilize social media for this. And officers share success stories of diverted youth and bring attention to the fact that while community members can seek information and raise concerns, there are positives that are coming from this. And behind that, the purpose of social media is really used to start to engage and promote a transparency that's clear. And what it does is it builds that trust. And once that trust is built, there's a respect that allows for a dialogue to occur. For instance, a police department might post about an upcoming community event, and this may include a forum on juvenile justice. So that's where they invite their own, citizens to provide input, and that way they're helping craft those particular applications of juvenile justice. So that moving into some of the key skills, and the fifth point is really the importance of active listening. This is key in almost any profession, but specifically, it's a critical skill in the juvenile justice system. It involves fully concentrating and understanding and responding thoughtfully to what a juvenile is saying. And keep in mind that there is a different vocabulary and even a different understanding of the vocabulary. So therefore, you have to be able to discern and start to articulate your questions in a way that will elicit a response. So who should be using this? I mean, this is fundamental for everyone, from law enforcement officers to counselors. Any of the allied professionals should all practice some type of active listening when interacting with the youth. And again, just to reiterate some of the key points as to why, by employing active listening, professionals can build trust, they build rapport with the juveniles, they feel valued, and because of that, they're going to communicate in a more meaningful way. So, as an example, a counselor who actively listens to a juvenile's concerns can provide a more tailored support that's leading to better outcomes in the long run. The sixth point is really focused on the significance of the cultural awareness, and this is applicable in both a law enforcement and a allied professional perspective. So it's essential because it's effectively communicating within the juvenile justice system. It involves recognizing and respecting the diverse backgrounds of the youth and their families. And it's so important because to understand the cultural differences can influence how information is perceived, how it's received, how it's communicated. And for instance, a family from a different cultural background may have varying perception of what authority is and how justice is applied. As an example, a law enforcement officer who is culturally aware might approach a juvenile from a different background with sensitivity, kind of recognizing that there's past experiences that have already shaped their view of the justice system. And this awareness can lead to a more productive interaction because there's a sense of safety that the individual feels, and support for that youth that's involved really starts to pay dividends when it comes to having open and honest conversations. So through this initiative, we really aim to empower our community by providing them with the knowledge and the resources to be able to navigate the juvenile justice system effectively. And really, it's helping them understand and cooperate in a way that we can ensure that all the youth receive the support that they need in order to thrive and be successful. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today, and give me a follow. Have a good one.